Hi everyone. A couple of weeks ago, I put up a video sent to me by Mike Stevens, my friend Mike Stevens. He did a haul video. And Mike is a guy I've known for over a year. And I mentioned then that he is just one of these people that can go into a comic book store or go to a used bookstore and find really interesting comics for next to nothing. I mean, he'll spend the money if you really want something, but he just has that knack that some people just do. And he's a really good guy. We've been friends for well over a year. And so a couple months ago, I think, I lent him a couple of graphic novels. And he sent me a message saying, hey, I'm going to return your books to you. I'm going to throw in a few extra comics that maybe you'd like. And I'm like, well, that's cool. So a few days later, I get this in the mail. 10 pounds, 3 ounces worth of comics. And Mike is a generous guy, but it was still really nice of him to do. So I thought, just for fun, I'd share what I got. And it's really for two reasons. One, when you get to a certain age and you have a surprise, usually that surprise isn't a good one. And this was a good surprise, so I thought I'd kind of share in that positivity. But also, I think that when people are in a hobby or in a fandom and they share what they like, I think what happens is that you end up deepening some of the connections you already have, and you also make new connections because comics are viral. You like a book, you find out somebody else likes that book, and they say, hey, if you like book A, have you ever read book B? And you say, I've never read book B. And then you read book B and you say, hey, have you read book C? Oh, and the other guy says, I don't know, I've never read C. And that's that's the way comics are. And they've always been that way. That's why I don't think a lot of companies spend a lot on marketing and publicity, because I think there's no way you can replicate that viral nature. That's just my opinion. But I just wanted to kind of like point out, and this is just my philosophy, that I think that when we talk about and we find out how similar we are instead of how different we are, it's just better for the planet. That's just my philosophy. So anyway, I'm going to go and proceed with the video. And before I do, I just want to say that in part of it, I point out a page that's drawn by Alex Toth. I know the last name is pronounced Toth, but for some reason I said Toth. And I had a lot of interruptions. I had little issues being able to get these videos recorded and set up. And I saw it, and I really didn't want to reshoot it. So yes, I know it's Toth. My bad. So anyway, on with the show, and thanks. So when I opened up the box, this is what 10 pounds of comics looks like. So let's go through them. So let's start off with the books that I actually lent Mike. This is the hardcover to Burn Residue. This was a Kickstarter that came out last year by Jonathan Thompson and Rossano Piccioni. It's a crime noir story, revenge, gambling, fire, and some redemption. Jonathan told me that this is going to be published as a graphic novel by Source Point Press, I believe later this year, and that there will be a continuing story after all of this mayhem. Great book. And I also lent Mike The Omega Men. This was done by Tom King in 2015. Now, people that know me when we talk about comics know that I'm not the biggest Tom King fan. I think a lot of his stories and a lot of the themes, as far as dealing with trauma and loss, really redundant. But this book is really good. He created this whole well thought out world that I wish DC would revisit. It exists within the DC universe. I mean, it did then. I don't know if it does now. But this is a really good book. It's worth reading and checking it out. Okay, so now here are the books that Mike gifted me. So most of these books also, I'm going to say, I never knew existed. So this is like a discovery for me. This is Anything Goes. This looks like it was an anthology. This is published by the Comics Journal, 1986. So it was a Comics Journal separate from Fantagraphics, or part of Fantagraphics, or an offshoot. So anyway, this cover is by Bill Kane and John Strand and Gil Hernandez, Mike Baron, Dave Garcia, Alex Toth, Mark Hempel. So maybe it's both. Maybe it's reissues. And maybe it's also new material. I can't really say. see what we got here. Okay, here's some Gilbert in color. This is pretty. Alex Toth. That's great. This is cool. Okay, and then another issue of Anything Goes. And it says a new story starring Maggie and Hopi by Jaime Hernandez. So this has a story by Alan Moore, has some reprints and some new stuff. So I guess it's both, and also a story by Art Spiegelman. So this must be the Alan Moore, Don Simpson book or story. And this always is interesting because I'm always interested in seeing these stories in color because you rarely see them in color. I mean, it's just because, I mean, the Hernandez brothers know how to color. They just, it's their work, the predominant amount of their work is black and white. So this is actually pretty cool to see. Best comic of the 80s? Yeah, that's certainly a top 5 contender. Some Jack Kirby, Captain Victory reprints. Always good to see Jack Kirby work. This looks pretty cool too. Another issue of Anything Goes. We got Dave Sim Cerebus, Daniel Klaus. I've never read Cerebus. I know about a lot of the controversy he has, a lot of the stuff that Dave Sim has, but I've never read it. For no particular reason, I just never read it. There's so many great comics from today and from yesterday that I've not gotten to. Hopefully I will get to them. Oh, 2 pages of Dan Klaus in color. Gorgeous. And issue 4 of Anything Goes. And this cover is by George Perez. Look how beautiful that is. That's like at the height of his powers. Gilbert Hernandez, H.P. Lovecraft, Peter Bagg. There we go. There's some good stuff in here. I'm not sure how the stories are. Oh, and there's a little sequence dates. December 27, 1930, December 31, 1930. This must be the, I don't know if they're colored, the daily comics or the Sunday comics from the original Popeye. That I'm looking forward to read. Okay, so next, I got, I think it's called Dayglow A-Hole 1 by Ben Passmore. I've heard of Ben Passmore. Never read his art, never read his stories, but I've heard of him. This looks kind of interesting. Love the colors, love the color palette on this. Book is a few years old only. Nice quality. Okay, next we have Grendel, and this is, I guess, when they made Grendel a sexy woman. Now, I know that Grendel goes to different iterations, sort of like the Doctor on Doctor Who. I tried reading one of the earlier graphic novels of Grendel, and I did not get it. And the people that read Grendel and like Grendel think it's the greatest thing since sliced bread. So maybe I'll like this better. I mean, let's see who did the art. Okay, so Matt went into the story, and Arnold and Jacob Pander did the pencils, and somebody named Jabe Geldof did the inks. So I like this art style better. Seems like it's more dialogue driven than the book I read, which is a lot of narration, kind of meandering. Give it a shot. Next, I got 2 issues, 1 and 2 of Madman Adventures. Now, I've never read Madman either. I mean, obviously I know who the All-Reds are. This is really pretty cool, though. Colors are beautiful and gorgeous, like All-Red tends to use. Bright colors. And see, by the All-Reds, and back cover by genial Jeff Darrow. So I guess this is back in the day when they would do something, they would do the back cover. Nowadays, they would just take this cover and put it as a variant, the Jeff Darrow variant. So that way you could sell 2 copies instead of just having, this is an enticement to buy 1. This looks pretty cool. And this is the following issue. My Tundra Press as well. And what do we got here? Mark Schultz and Boy Genius Al Columbia. He did something here. Oh, Al Columbia did this. Now this would be the Al Columbia variant. this looks really freaking cool. I'm a huge Al Columbia fan. That looks cool. He needs to do more superheroes. This looks good. Okay, next I got a couple of issues of Death Rattle. Now, Death Rattle is another book I'm familiar with. I've heard about Kitchen Sink Press, excuse me. Never read it. Looks like it's an anthology of some sort because there's different art here. And I don't know. This is Roger Peterson. Looks pretty good. Not sure who the artist here is. This is Doug Hansen. Looks pretty slick. Let me see. Oh, this one's in color. Now it says story and art by Jackson. Now Jackson draws like a lot like Richard Corbin. I know it's not Richard Corbin, but it's always I'm always curious that these people that you never heard of, like who they really were. I mean, I wonder if they were just trying to be cool and they call themselves Jackson with an X, or if they really were like pros working for Marvel, DC, and didn't want anybody to know they worked on the down low. I'm always curious about that. And one thing I just noticed on this issue, Anything Goes, covered by Frank Miller. That looks pretty cool. Okay. So Alien Encounters. Alien Encounters. Story by Charles Dixon, illustrated by Peter Ledger. I've heard of Peter Ledger. I'm not familiar with his work. Not really sure what he's done. And then you have your story script by Ruby. Pencil ink by Graham Nolan. So it looks like you have some good talent and some writers and artists that are drawing under different names. Now we got space writers. Now, the funny thing is that Alexis Ziri, who does this book, he lives in Miami. He lives in the Doral suburb, which is about, I don't know, 10 miles north of me, maybe 15 at most. So I should go out of my way and try to find the guy. But I've never read any of his work, so I always wanted to read his work before I actually got in touch with him. This looks really good. I love these bright black light on poster, almost kind of like looks. I gotta read this. If I like this, I'll buy the trade. Okay, and next I got the all-time comics. This is, I'm gonna mispronounce this, but it's Zerosys Deathscape. Now I had to trade to this, and I think I traded it for something else, but I enjoy the story because it seems like none of this would fit together, but by the end of the story, it all fits. So I'm going to enjoy rereading this again. And, you know, I like reading the trades, but I think you get a little bit more when you read the individual issues if you can, like back to back. Sometimes I'll have bonus matter or ephemera that you won't have in the trade. Sometimes yes, sometimes no. But this looks pretty cool. Okay. And I got 2 issues of Twisted Tales. Now, I'm not sure about this cover because it has somebody named Jocko, but this looks like Richard Corbin. And then the first story is written by Bruce Jones and drawn by Richard Corbin, which I'm going to love because I think Bruce Jones in the day was a good writer. But more importantly, I got to see some Richard Corbin art. And this is art by Alfredo Alcala. Alfredo Alcala's work I loved on Marvel when he did work on Conan. Great underappreciated artist. This is art by Brett Blevins. Another great artist. I like this work. And art by Tim Conrad, who I'm not familiar with, but I like what I see here. Another anthology looks cool. And then the second issue of Twisted Tales. Sorry, Bruce Jones, art by Mike Plug. I'm going to enjoy this. I like Mike Plug's work a lot. Very cool, very unique type of work. And then this is Bruce Jones and Ken Steacy. Ken Steacy is someone who I remember reading, and the first time I read was in Epic Comics in the 80s. Really dug his art, really dug his stories. I don't know if he did many comics, and I should follow up on Ken Steacy. I always liked his work back then. It was weird because I read superheroes, but then when somebody would come along and do something like independent, sort of like in Epic, which was kind of like their heavy metal, I always dug it. But I never went to other publishers. If it wasn't made by Marvel, DC, I didn't buy it. With the exception of Valiant. Speed Demons. Bruce Jones and Rand Holmes. I don't know who Rand Holmes is. Should be cool. Okay. An issue of Nexus. I know of Nexus. I've never read Nexus. I know Steve Rude draws Nexus, and I love Steve Rude's work. He's one of the few guys that can draw in that 1950s, early 60s style and really make it work, even to this day. It's really good. Alex, this is a book by Fantagraphics. I'm not familiar with Mark Kolesniko. That'll be interesting. I have to research that. I got 3 issues of Yummy Fur. 26 and 29. Now, I bought 2 issues of Yummy Fur last year, and there was a story about a guy whose penis had a head on it, like an actual head, you know, ears, eyes, nose, mouth, that would talk. And it looked like Ronald Reagan, and the government was after him, and everybody knew that his penis looked like Ronald Reagan. It was really strange. I didn't get it. But this seems to be a different story, so hopefully I'll like this more. I have read some of Charles Burns' work. I like Charles Burns' work. I think it's really good. From what I've read, that story just kind of was like, what's the point? And then he does these biblical stories, which are always pretty interesting as well. That's a gorgeous cover. I don't care what anybody says, that is gorgeous. See, that's exciting. See, that's a cover. That's like if you're going around, you're seeing all your generic crappy covers, and you see this, you're like, oh, well, that's different. Too Much Coffee Man. Now, I like Too Much Coffee Man. Shannon Wheeler is I met him at a Miami International Book Festival in 2017, I think. But what I'm seeing here is this is all color. Usually I see his work in black and white and on lower quality paper on some of the monthly issues. This looks really cool. I'm going to enjoy this. So what do we have? We have Slacker Comics by Slave Labor Graphics. I wonder, what year was this? 1994. I wonder if this is like the time when books like Hate were getting popular. And so they were saying, hey, we're going to have to make some kind of tap into that slacker grunge thing that Hate is doing so we can make our next hit. It's interesting. Sort of looks like Ed, and Eddie. Okay, Stig's Inferno. No idea what this is. Looks like there's demons and there's hell in it. Who published this, by the way? This is by Vortex. Not familiar with this at all. And from 1984. Oh, man. That was a good year. Okay, The Rocketeer, Issue One. Now, I've heard The Rocketeer. I've never read The Rocketeer. I know about Dave Stevens. No, he's highly regarded. Never read any of his work. Art looks great, though. Oh, interesting article here. And the backup story here, the pencils are by Mike Kaluta and the inks are Charles Vess. So it's amazing the talent you have on some of these independent books that, like, you know, like if you didn't have a store that sold this type of stuff, you never know. But then you have this monster talent on these books. You know, it's a shame. I wish I would have found. I mean, this existed when I was reading comics, but I just would have known that this parallel universe was there because I would have liked this a lot. And then Echo. A Future Past. So this was another anthology book. This is by Continuity Publishing, 1984. Okay, so this is the old, I think the Neil Adams company. Also, you got a story by Larry Hama and Mike Golden. Oh, this is the stuff I dug. I always liked Mike Golden. I found out about him with Micronauts, and then I believe he did the NAM as well. Neil Adams has a story, and Art Sledheim has a story. Now, I know Art Sledheim has this history of going to a con and like buying a table and then taking over like a whole like quarter acre for his stuff. But I always liked his work, especially from this time period. He had a series called Charlie and Flytrap that was published by Epic Comics that I should look for because it can't be very expensive. This looks pretty cool. You can tell that Neil Adams stuff. Looks good. Rest in peace, Neil Adams. And then I have the Comics Journal number 301. This is from 2012, I think. 2011, excuse me. And I didn't know that this was a thing. Like, I know that you see it now as digitally, but I didn't know this was a thing. And this was $30 back, 10 years, which I guess is a lot to ask. But I mean, you have these cool interviews with Robert Crumb, Joe Sacco. You have sketchbooks with Rodring, Hensley, Dixon. This looks pretty cool. I got some interesting, okay, there's some interesting art pieces here, and there's some interesting interviews. I'm really going to enjoy finding his limits. I think I'm going to more so about Crumb. This is really cool. So what is this? Book on Will Elder. Oh, Al Jaffe and Mike Gorman conversation. This looks really, really, really cool. And then previews, Footnotes in Gaza. I Like the Years Have Pants, which I just got. Footnotes in Gaza I read, and Black Blizzard. Oh, this is Black Blizzard when it was about to come out. That's funny. I just posted that on my Instagram. Black Blizzard. I love that story. Made Tatsumi my favorite mangaka. This is really, really cool. It's kind of like a nice time capsule. But like Alec, I just got, and this is highly regarded as well. I'm going to enjoy this. And the end things, a copy of Blab 15. Now, I've heard of Blab. I know about Blab. Never read Blab. But you have some interesting stories here, some interesting cartoons that I don't know. This is what I like about anthology, especially older ones. You'll find out about creators that you didn't know about, and then some of them you're not going to like, and some of them you're going to love. And here we have a story on page 109 by Spain Rodriguez. Now, I know about Spain. I'm not a big fan of underground cartoonists in general, but I like this. This is really nice and clean, interesting storytelling. I love this large size. I love this kind of art here. This is just really good. This is so cool. And that's it. So I just wanted to show all this stuff, and I want to thank Mike again for this very generous gift of comics, which I'm going to enjoy immensely. And as I said before, try to make friends with people who have good taste in comics and who are good people. Not because you expect to get anything out of it, but because it's just a good thing. And sometimes you'll end up like exchanging stuff. So now, if we had decent dollar bins here in Miami, I go hunt and find stuff for him. So whenever I do get to go see a place where there's decent dollar bins, I'll keep him in mind. Anyway, thanks, and I hope you enjoyed this and it wasn't too ponderous. I usually don't have to do videos like this, but it was more like to show off some of the cool stuff, because I know some people that watch this channel like this stuff. And if it bores you, I'm sorry. Back to regular programming next time. Bye.